Well, one can only hope.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're listening to Sudbury Student and Community Radio Station, CKLU 96.7 FM, and streaming live at cklu.ca.
I want to welcome everyone to the Learning Clinic on CKLU 96.7 FM. I'm your host, Bob Kerwin. And as usual, it's Monday afternoon, and we are going to try and keep our listeners a little bit more aware of some of the issues and some of the things that they should be paying attention to during this election 2014 campaign. This afternoon, we have Dan Melanson, who is the president of the Greater Sudbury Taxpayers Association. He's also chair of the board. And Dan is going to give us a rundown of some of the things that the Greater Sudbury Taxpayers Association is planning for this election. And we're going to talk also about some of the background, some of the history, and some of the, I guess, the purpose and mission of the association, and how Dan and his group are going to be trying to make this an election where more and more people are aware of what's going on. So Dan, welcome to Laurentian.
No, thanks for having me, Bob.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Dan, we've been around Sudbury a while. I think you've been in Sudbury.
Born and raised.
Born and raised. I've been born and raised. I grew up in Lively, and now I'm out in the valley, and my wife grew up in Creighton. And so we've seen a lot of changes and a lot of growth, a lot of different governments, all levels, different forms of government. The Greater Sudbury Taxpayers Association, you're the president of it. Can you give us a little bit of a history and a background, and then talk to us about the mission, and then let's get into what you're looking at this year, because I think there's some pretty exciting things.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. The GSTA was formed back in November of 2011. It was formed basically out of a sense of frustration with the lack of change that was happening as a result of the last municipal election. You know, I think there was a resounding vote for Mayor Manichuk to bring some change to our city governance, and it was abundantly clear that that was not going to be happening with the attitude of the current council. So, in order to try and bring some light to the matter and try and focus the public attention on this situation, we decided to form a taxpayer association, which was the Greater Sudbury Taxpayers Association, and we formulated with the idea in mind that we would have some key guiding principles which would be our focus, which is transparency, accountability, value for tax money spent, smaller government, and so that's been our focus throughout the subsequent 3 years that we've been doing things.
And those don't really sound like they are narrow principles or philosophies for government, do they?
Well,
Like, they sound like they're pretty.
Yeah, they're pretty broad strokes, but I mean, by the same token, I mean, they're sadly lacking in our municipal governance that we have right now. I mean, you know, just by virtue of the fact that there was a major discussion about whether or not they should renew a contract with the Auditor General, for example, is you know, speaks to the transparency and
Kind of a red flag, isn't it?
Exactly, and the fact that, you know, as a result of the Auditor General's report on transit, there was really, I mean, I don't know of anybody that can point a finger and say, well, someone's been held accountable for that $800,000 that went missing. So there's two items that illustrate the lack of transparency and accountability. I mean, you don't have to go very far to get onto the issue of runaway spending. I mean, in the last 10 years, the taxes have gone up by at a compounded rate of 78%. In 10 years. So, I mean, the city is taking in huge amounts of new revenue from the taxpayers' pockets. And at the same time, there was a huge increase in new buildings and new assessments. So on top of that 78%, there was a whole lot of new money that was brought in by these new buildings and things that came on. And we're still, have an infrastructure deficit. We still have, we're playing catch up on sewer, water, roads. It's a spending problem, it's not a revenue problem, and that's big part of what we say. We need to get some accountability with regards to how our money's being spent, and are we actually getting value for that money that's being spent?
That's a good question. I'm sure we're gonna get into it.
Mhm.
So your group, I wanna make sure that people understand that this isn't simply a lobbying group trying to get a certain thing
No.
passed.
No,
Like
absolutely.
this is, because what you're talking about are, like if you're gonna have a code of conduct for any kind of governance or any kind of organization, they sound like they're basic core elements that you would have in any one of these
For sure.
conduct.
I mean, we're not saying you need to do this, you need to, you know, we're saying you need to be able to look at what you're doing now, figure out what is wrong with what we're doing now, and how are you gonna go about fixing it. So if the issue is our crumbling infrastructure, and the problem is that we don't have the funds that are required to completely replace that infrastructure, and the reason why we don't have the funds to change that, to replace that infrastructure is because our taxpayers are strapped to the nines already. Then maybe we should look at where we're spending that money. Maybe we should reallocate the spending so that we can deal with the deficit of the infrastructure, as opposed to continuing on our merry way and just hitting the easy button and giving us a 2 or 3% tax increase each year, which only is having the effect of driving people out of their homes. I mean, a lot of people on fixed incomes, you know, they paid their mortgage off over 20, 30, 40 years, figuring, okay, well, in our twilight years, we'll be able to live in our home, we won't have to worry about a mortgage payment. And now their tax bill has replaced the mortgage payment, and they're having a hard time staying in their homes.
Yeah.
That's not right.
No, it isn't. And I think one of the figures that you brought up, this compounded interest of,
Mhm.
what, 78%?
78% in 10 years.
When you take a look at a person living on a fixed income over 10 years in a house, that's the property taxes.
Yeah.
When you take a look at hydro, you take a look at gas, you take a look at everything else,
Absolutely.
it's no wonder, and then one of the things I'm finding as over the years, as I'm talking to the people in the valley
Mhm.
that are a little bit older than what I am, but
Mhm.
is they're saying they're almost locked into their house,
Mhm.
and they're almost house poor,
Mhm.
because there's no place for them to go if they want it out of their house. And many of them, it's not a matter of they want subsidized or low rent or whatever, they just don't have any other option other than stay. And when we take a look at the marketing that's going on now with reverse mortgages and the ease of getting equity, I think a lot of people are probably taking equity loans on their homes just to be
Absolutely.
able to maintain.
Just to day-to-day living.
Yeah, so-
Yeah, but see, hydro and all those things, we can't control
No.
municipally. The only thing that we can control municipally is our taxes.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, councils for the last number of years have abdicated the responsibility of providing cost-effective governance to us. They've consistently raised the taxes because it's the easy thing to do. They don't want to make the hard decisions politically and say, I'm sorry, we can't afford that anymore. So we're not going to be able to do that anymore. Now, you may not like it as a voter, but guess what? That's the cold hard reality. I mean, if you're living at your house and, you know, your car breaks down, you have to make the decision, you know, where's the money coming from to fix that car? You can't just go to your boss and say, oh, by the way, my car broke down, so I'm gonna buy a new one. So I need an extra $100 a week from you because I'm buying a new car. That's what our political leaders are doing right now. They're saying, okay, well, listen, there's a problem here, and you know, we haven't done the best of jobs in spending your money in the past, but you know what? We need to do something here, so we're gonna pick your pocket for a few more bucks so that we don't have to tell you that, you know, you can't have this door-to-door service for this, that, or whatever. That's the cold hard reality. I know it's not politically acceptable to a lot of people, especially politicians, because they wanna get elected, but that's the cold hard reality. We have to make some tough decisions. We can't go on the way we are.
Do you think that the politicians, that there's two levels of municipal government, one is the politicians and the other is the staff and the bureaucrats. Do you think
Sure.
the politicians have enough knowledge to make the decisions they're making around the table?
Well,
It's complicated when you're taking a look at big reports.
well, it certainly is. I mean, I think more to the point of your question is do the people who've been running for office have the skill sets necessary to be able to analyze and look at these reports and make sense of them?
Yeah, that's a much better way of putting it. I didn't know quite how.
Yeah, well, I mean, basically what you're talking about is a function of what a business person does every time they look at a business case.
Yeah.
I think the lack of business experience on our municipal boards clearly demonstrates that is a problem. The question is, how do you get more people with a business background to get involved in politics so that you have that base level knowledge so that you can get these decisions made from an unemotional business perspective? And I mean, that's part of the problem, is a lot of these decisions are made based on emotion.
Yeah, and it's a tough question to get a person to give up a successful business to go and sit on council, but.
Well, but I mean, hey, if you look at some of the best, the best example of a politician who came from business, had a successful business, and was probably one of the best known politicians in this area, Tom Davies. You know, he ran a garage in Walden for a bunch of years. He saw issues and problems with the way the governance of Walden at the time was going, and he got into politics. And he ended up being probably one of the most influential politicians that this area has ever produced.
Yeah.
And he came from a business background, and he got into it.
Yeah.
So it can be done with just how do we go about attracting those individuals to actually throw their hat in the ring and say, okay, listen, this is something I gotta do.
And I guess that let's move on to the mission and what some
Sure.
of your goals are, because it seems as if that's a good segue into it. It's just,
Sure.
I don't think that a politician should be afraid of the Greater Sudbury Taxpayers Association. I don't think this is you're not out there to strike fear in people's
No.
hearts. That's my perception anyway, but.
Well, right from the get-go, we offered to try and work with anyone at council that wanted to. I mean, we made the offer on our website to give, and those slots are there. Each ward has a slot. We offered every one of the councilors to put whatever they want, whenever they wanted, however they wanted. If we're saying something and they wanted to put, we wouldn't edit it, whatever. We never got any takers. I mean, they decided that, you know, we were a couple of people who were making a lot of noise, and they found out that that's not the case. You know, when the ombudsman was fired and we took it upon ourselves to do the petition to bring back the ombudsman, I mean, there was people who told me that, oh, you'll never get, you'd be lucky if you get 1,000 petitions, because you have to get original signatures. You can't, do online petitions. The city won't recognize them. So you know, you gotta get these cards, people gotta get a stamp, they gotta fill them out, they gotta take them to the mailbox. People don't do that anymore. Well, we proved them wrong because it was a strong enough motivating issue that over 9,000 people took it upon themselves to download the petition, print it out, put it in an envelope, mail it to us, or take the cards that we mailed out to them, buy a stamp, fill it out, and take it to the nearest mailbox. Over 9,000. The city had never seen,
That's impressive.
they'd never seen a petition like that. You go to most council meetings, somebody comes up with a petition, it's 50 names, 160 names, whatever. And what kind of response did we get from that council? We walked in with 4 bags, huge bags of these petitions. Not one of them asked a single question, not one of them made a single comment except for Councillor Belly, who took it upon himself to give us the opportunity to present this petition.
That must be infuriating too, because I've been in those types of situations where somebody does a lot of work, they come up, they give it, and nobody says anything. There's gotta be questions.
Well, I mean,
It has to be gone.
it's annoying, but it wasn't unexpected. I mean, I fully expected that kind of response. Because, you know, that's the mentality that they have. I mean, they don't understand that just because I'm disagreeing with what you're doing right now, doesn't mean I'm your enemy.
No.
You know, I mean, in business all the time, I negotiate with people that have gotten the better of me last time, and I'll get the better of them next time, and you know, you have a business relationship. It doesn't mean because you got the better of me last time, I'm never gonna have anything to do with you again. That's not the way it works.
Yeah, and that,
You know, that's petty politicking. I mean,
yeah, eventually after 4 years, nobody's gonna agree with anybody.
well, exactly. I mean,
So what are we doing
well,
with this election campaign?
I mean, there was a lot of people who, over the last couple of years, suggested that we should run a slate of candidates, like-minded candidates, and go down that route. And you know, at the board level, we discussed that. We discussed a number of different options, and we decided that, listen, you know, we don't want to be seen to be telling people who or what they should be voting for. So we decided what's the best way to not be doing that and still have an influence on the election. And what we did was we came up with a 4-part program. What we're going to do is we're going to have initially a seminar, which will have a couple of speakers to speak to the importance of civil engagement and why you as a taxpayer or a citizen of Sudbury should get involved in the electoral process and municipal governance on a day-to-day, year-to-year, or election year basis.
Hey, let's have them on the show when you do it.
Sure.
For sure.
We can certainly,
Let's make sure we
look at that. I mean, we're just waiting to firm up the last speaker, and as soon as we have that, then we'll nail down the date and
Hey, for
we'll get
sure.
it out, and
Definitely.
we'll see if we can schedule something. The second thing that we're going to be doing is after that initial seminar, we're going to have another workshop. And that workshop will be focused on people who want to run or are thinking about running but don't know how to get involved or what's involved or anything like that. So we'll have people who will be doing a little seminar on workshop on, you know, so you want to run for council. Well, here's what's involved in running if you want to run. This is how and what you should put together, or how you could put together a team to get you elected. And hear someone else speak to campaign finance, what you can do, what you can't do, you know, how it all comes together. And then another individual who will speak to the issue of media relations and how do you get your message out and what's an effective way to communicate your message to the people that you need to get out to vote, and then how do you get your vote out. The next thing is we're gonna try and get all that in before the summertime. After the summer, when everybody comes back from holidays and things, we'll be starting to get into high gear in September for the election.
Move fast.
Yeah, in September, we will begin with a series of advertisements, an ad campaign talking about the need for being informed. It's the kickoff of our informed voters checklist. We have created a document which, for each ward and the mayor's position, which shows what the incumbent's position was on key issues, how they voted on how they voted on issues, what they said about different issues. And so that'll be all in one package, and then any of the people who are challenging them for their ward or the mayoralty race, they will have the opportunity to respond to the questionnaire, which will deal with the issue. So if you were here when this issue was dealt with, how would you have responded? Would you voted for it, against it? You know, what's your position on it? So you're comparing apples to apples. Here's the incumbent, here's the 1, 2, or 6 challengers, and here's where they run on. So when they come to your door, you can take this document and say, okay, you say you're standing for this, let's talk about this.
Take my laptop and have a look.
That's right. What do you say?
So you're gonna have all this online?
It's going to be online. It'll be off our website. You'll be able to download it or you know, go to the website and grab it. We're also intending to have printed a number of them out, and they'll be available for people who don't have access for computers. We'll be more than happy to get them out to them. So that's the third part of it. And then the last part is we've all heard the expression, the mayor has only one vote. And that's very true. You know, there's 12 other people on council, and she's only got one vote at the present moment. But the mayor is the only person on council that at the present time could be considered at large. So the mayor is the only person that everyone in the city gets to vote for. So the platform that anyone that's running for mayor puts forward is the only platform that everybody gets to say, yeah, you know what, that's a direction that I want to move in as a citizen, not of Ward 3, 6, or 10, but as a city of Sudbury, that's the direction I think the city as a whole should be moving in. So the ward races have always gotten lost in the level of importance. The Chamber of Commerce does a great job doing the mayoralty debates. Most of the media spend a lot of time focused on who's running for mayor and what they're saying and how it's going. But there's been a lot less media coverage and voter awareness of the ward races. Now, if 12 of the votes that are gonna vote either with or against that one person who's running at large are not getting the kind of scrutiny that the mayor's race is, that's a problem. So we're gonna try and elevate that, the ward races, to a higher level. We're gonna organize ward debates that are gonna be consistent across all of the wards, so that, you know, the media will have an opportunity to attend and see how they're going. Anyone who's interested in their ward can come out and see the guys that are running and gals that are running for those ward races and pose some questions if they want. Try to get it to raise the elevation of it to that as close as we can to the mayor's race, so that we end up with a better informed electorate at a ward level as well as the city level.
Yeah, no, that's it. That sounds like this has been taking a long time to plan. It's
Yeah.
pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, well, it's not something we dreamt up overnight.
No.
We've been working on it a long time. As with, you know, all the issues that we've brought up in the past, you know, the slush funds, before we took a position on the slush funds, we had a legal representative who specializes in municipal governance and I lost the word.
Legislation?
Well, he's conflict of interest.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so he looked at it from a number of different issues, and he had some real problems with it. Documented them, and based on that legal opinion, we went forward with our position on slush funds, which brought the slush funds to a prominence locally here, where it's still, you know, it continues to be a thorn in a lot of taxpayers' sides. And as a result of our efforts, I believe, the council has on at least 3 occasions modified the rules trying to bring the regulations under which they're dispensing these funds into something that comes close, and they still aren't there, so.
No, that's good. So if I'm looking at the survey,
Mhm.
I'm trying to visualize the survey.
Mhm.
Have you, I guess you're identifying some of the decisions, some of the issues that are
Yeah.
key in
Yeah,
this election?
well, let's go back to
Yeah.
a couple of things, you know, slush funds, all
Okay.
right? Who brought up the motion to increase them from 35,000 to 50,000 at the beginning of the term of this council? Okay, who voted to go along with that? Okay, who voted against it? Why did they say they needed to do that? When the issue of the slush funds came up, and the legality of it was brought forward, well, who voted to change and who didn't?
So what you're trying to do then, and there's more of a question
Yeah.
and what I can see from this is, you're not basically taking a position that people should have voted different.
No.
But you wanna see why they voted.
Yeah,
And you're-
here's how they voted,
Yeah.
and here's what they say, the reason they voted that way.
Yeah.
Now, if you agree with that, then you should vote for the incumbent, because if you agree that he should be spending $50,000 a year and whatever he wants, then, hey, you should,
Yeah.
that's how you should be voting. We're not telling you that you should be voting against slush funds, we're not telling you you should be voting against, returning the ombudsman. What we're saying is, here's what the incumbent, in his, it's holding them accountable for their record.
Here are the
okay?
arguments.
Here they are, I mean, instead of just running on name recognition,
Yeah.
which has been that way for a long, long time.
I really like that. I hope that this continues even beyond the election,
Mhm.
because I think unless you're actually watching the video, the stream
Mhm.
of these meetings,
Yeah,
where else do you find that?
no, you don't. You don't.
Because you don't see the arguments.
And you see, that's traditionally been the problem. Most times, they'll do whatever, and you know, politicians being what they will, they'll do what's politically expedient for them. And if it's unpopular at the time, well, okay, we'll take the heat for a week or so, and then, you know, play nice for the last 6 months before the election, and the only thing everybody remembers is, well, my last name is this, or my last name is that, so they vote for name recognition. We're trying to do something about leveling the playing field for all of the challengers and the incumbents, so that, you know, in the past, the incumbents had the advantage of name recognition, and more recently, they've had the advantage of, you know, $250,000 to spend a year to spread around to goodwill and whatnot. What we're trying to do with these documents is say, hey, listen, and with these ward debates, is say, listen, let's compare this person not on how many people recognize his name or her name, but what have they done for the last 4 years? How have they voted? Is that in accordance with what I believe is in the best interest of the city? Or is it in the best interest of that person politically? And you as over here running as a challenger to this individual, here, same scenario, how would you have voted?
Yeah.
What would you have said? What's your position on it? So now now I can look at something, now I'm informed, now I can make a decision, not solely based on, well, geez, you know, I recognize that name, so maybe I'll vote for that one. Because if the only race that you're getting all of the media attention is the mayor's race, everybody's focused on the mayor's race. So you may go to the voting booth to vote for who you think you want for mayor, and then you haven't really paid a whole lot of attention or know anything about what's gone on in your ward. So what do? It comes to ward time, you look at who am I gonna vote for? Oh, gee, well, that name looks familiar.
Who was the last sign I
That's
saw
right.
coming into the
Boom.
parking lot?
And not knowing that you voted for someone who may be diametrically opposed to everything that you hold near and dear. So, that's what the whole purpose of this thing is to try and raise that awareness and that level of interest by the voter to get out, and when they check that check mark beside a person's name, it's not because they recognize the name, it's because they recognize the name and what that person stands for.
So who's providing the content for the incumbents?
We've been attending a lot of council meetings, so
I
it's
imagine
pretty dry, yeah. And you know, so we've been documenting it all the way through. We've had, you know, when I haven't been able to get there, we've had other people from the association that have been there. We've been tracking these things and putting them on.
So-
I mean, we're not going to have every decision that they've made in the last 4 years, but we're talking about key issues with regards to, you know, firing the ombudsman, who wanted to renew the Auditor General's contract, and who didn't,
And you've got some of their arguments.
some of their comments, yes.
Perfect, because I think this is where, I refer to this as priming the pump.
Mhm,
Because there's gonna be something on the site,
mhm.
it's behooves any person running for that position to make sure they're there as well.
Well,
I mean, if
absolutely.
you're just gonna ignore it and not put comments, that should be seen as,
A
statement.
red flag right off the bat, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, every one of the incumbents, you know, we have, like I said, we've given them, they have space on our website that they can put whatever they want, but none of them have chosen to do so. So if they decide, you know, that we put this document out, we're more than happy to if they have an issue with anything that's in there, you know, I'll make it available to them before it goes out. If they have an issue with it, great. You're saying you didn't say that? Well, here's what we have. That's why we put that there. So
So will you give them their own spot to say,
absolutely,
would you like to have
absolutely,
a rebuttal?
sure, if they want to.
A rebuttal to what you said?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. No, that, I think
Absolutely.
that,
I mean,
oh, I hope
we're not out to try and do anything other than promote an informed decision when it comes to making your vote.
So in other words, you're kind of following your transparency and,
Well,
and account, like you can't. really
What you
do
see
much
is what
more.
you get. I mean, you have to, if you're gonna talk the talk, you better walk the walk.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that, I hope it gets filled.
Mhm. Yeah, I do too.
Because I think it would be,
Mhm.
it would be a beautiful tool. We tend to live in this world today where
Mhm.
it's like, don't put anything in writing. And I can see a lot of candidates saying, I better be careful what I say here,
Yeah.
because if I don't perform 2 years from now and I've got it in writing, and yet, I guess if you're gonna
Or-
play in this game, you better be prepared.
Yeah, or, I mean, if you truly believe what you're doing, then you shouldn't have any compunction
Shouldn't
about
have,
stating whatever you believe. So, I mean, you know, I'm not saying that, that I have all the answers or that anybody else has all the answers. All I'm saying is I know what I believe, and I'll state what I believe to anybody, anywhere, anytime.
And if you disagree,
and
give
if
me
they-
a convincing argument, try to change my mind.
Yeah, that's right. If you can give me an argument that shows where, you know, I should reconsider, I'm absolutely ready to reconsider anything.
Mhm.
But in the absence of that, my convictions stand.
Yeah, don't just say because.
No, exactly. Give me a reason. You know,
It
why do we need to do this?
It
Why
works.
should we be doing
It
that?
works with 5-year-olds.
Yeah, exactly.
doesn't-
Well,
it shouldn't work with-
there's times at the council meetings where you think that might be the average age. I mean, it gets pretty bad sometimes.
How big a group do you have working?
And about 200 people. were our
200
members.
people with the greatest
With
of
GSDA, yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
and they're all active?
No. There's probably a hardcore of about 25 people who are really, you
But
know,
the soft core
putting
will
some.
come.
Well,
fast.
see, it was kind of interesting when we first formed. We put out memberships. We got a lot of initial response from everybody, and it was amazing to me how many people that responded to us were elderly or seniors on fixed incomes. And you know, we were getting lots of snail mail with people saying, "How do I join? Well, I don't have a computer, or whatever." So we would get the forms out to them, and they come back. And during that first year, I looked at all of these people, and I looked at these things, and I got a lot of letters from a lot of people. I got a lot of phone calls from a lot of people saying, you know, like, I'm on a fixed income, $30 is a lot of money to me, but what you guys are doing needs to be done. We support you. It's going to be a hardship for me to do this, but I think it's important enough that I'm going to join your association. So I was looking at this, and you know, we've been very successful in our fundraising efforts with regards to contributions and whatnot. I said, you know what, guys, at one of the board meetings, I said, in all good conscience, I can't continue to do this. You know, we should drop the renewal aspect of our memberships, and it's like a one-time $30 charge. You're a lifetime member until you decide you don't want to be a member, and that was unanimously passed by the board. So I was really pleased that we weren't going to be going back to those people who supported us so adamantly right from the start, and be seen to
those are
be.
the people that really need your.
Well, exactly. They're the most needed, and we really shouldn't be taking their money on an ongoing basis. So we changed that around. And what we've done is we've redoubled our efforts on fundraising side of things from, you know, individuals, businesses, whatnot. You know, we've had barbecues, we had different things, and we've done very well with regards to raising money in that respect.
They've
So-
only been around 3 years, that's
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
groundwork.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of work, but we've got some really good people, and you know, we've been able to take informed positions through getting the right research done before we take a position on an issue.
So this
And
is
it's paid
really,
off.
this is really evidence-based
Mm-hmm.
approach. It's,
It's the only way to do it as far as I'm
you
concerned.
got, yeah, so if you're gonna have an argument,
No.
and if you're making the argument in face of evidence that's contrary, better be convincing.
Well, exactly. I mean, it goes to, I mean, I sat through, when this council first got into power. I mean, I sat through and listened to some of the comments that were being made by the councilors with regards to the shopping hours issue, and it was both painful to listen to and embarrassing at the same time, in that some of the statements that were being made by some councilors, such as, well, you know, we're gonna have to have more police because, you know, with 24-hour shopping, they're gonna be dealing with shoplifters at 2 a.m, and what about somebody who's getting raped or murdered, you know, the cops are gonna be tied up with a shoplifting case at 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, do you actually listen to what you're saying? I mean, you really don't understand what the issue is all about. If you would make make a statement like that about deregulating store hours, you really haven't got a clue. Another example is when they're speaking to issues such as, and I just lost my train of thought.
Too many meetings.
Yeah, way too many meetings. But no, there was another example that I was trying to remember, but it escapes me right now. But it was along the lines of, you know, oh, I know, it's Pioneer Manor. You know, when the discussion started with Pioneer Manor, you know, when they start off a statement by saying, well, this is a jewel. Well, that's not a factual based discussion we're gonna have. You're getting off on an emotional tangent. And yes, Pioneer Manor is a very nice facility, there's no question about it. But, you know, it is governed and operated and to the same standards, levels, and funding as all the other nursing homes in this town. The only difference is that the city owns this one. That's the only difference. Oh, sorry, there is another difference. It costs more to operate it because the city owns it, okay? If Pioneer Manor wasn't owned by the city, it would be operating at a lower cost than it is now because the city owns it. It's also a service that we aren't required to provide under the Municipal Act. And, you know, everybody's been talking about the province and the feds downloading onto the municipal taxpayers' back things that they should. Well, here's one item that we have the opportunity to upload back to the province, because it's their responsibility, not ours. So,
Why are we holding on to it?
pardon me?
Why are we holding on to it?
Well, exactly, why are we holding on to it? Now, I don't know why we're holding on to it, because it doesn't make sense to be covering a $4 to $5 million deficit last year or the year
So
before.
we're not making a surplus, we're not providing any more of a service than.
No. And quite frankly, you know, all that we have to do is go to the province and say, hey, listen, we're not doing this anymore, here's the keys, come and get it. And we would be money ahead,
Yeah,
just walking away. Now, that's the extreme, but, and quite frankly, if the city didn't own Pioneer Manor tomorrow, there would be no difference
no change.
in the level of what services are provided at the, because, I mean, Finlandia, St. Joseph's Villa, St. Gabriel's, they all work under the same rules. They all work under the same standards. They all have to provide the same number of nurses per person, per hour, the whole thing is all totally regulated.
I haven't been at the table,
Mhm,
I may be,
mhm.
but I haven't been at the table. But in your observations, obviously, your group has been there.
Mhm.
Do you think that a lot of topics are being dealt with at council that probably are best dealt with someplace else? Are they spending too much time on a lot of, I don't wanna say small things, that really they should be
Well,
focusing on? some
I've
bigger
seen them
things?
take hours discussing something that had a monetary value of $5,000. And on the other flip side, issue a contract for hundreds of thousands of dollars without anybody asking any real questions about it. And it goes back to this, I mean, they'll spend hours talking about whether or not you should put a stop sign up in a subdivision someplace at a cost of $1,500. And staff says, well, you know, it's not warranted and here's what it's all warranted. And one of the counselors has his 50 petitions, and he's doing the political thing. Again, I understand, you know, you're a politician, you wanna get reelected, you wanna do right by the people who voted for you. But that doesn't mean you have to, perhaps what the role as a politician is not taking that petition and telling staff, I don't care if it's not warranted, I don't care if it's not under the Traffic Act, it should be happening, I want the stop signs. Maybe as a politician, what you should be doing is taking that information, going back to the residents, and saying, hey, listen, this isn't going to fly, and here's the evidence and the reasons why. I understand your concerns. You wanna slow down the traffic. You wanna put this, that, whatever. Maybe there's another way that we can achieve what you want without doing this. Maybe there's something else, if we think outside the box, we can do something, or maybe there's another option available to the city to be able to accomplish what you really want, because you don't really want a stop sign, generally. What they want is slower traffic, they want this, that, that's great. Well, you know what? I've seen stop signs go in, and all that happens is you have a race between stop signs. You know, because people half the time don't stop at them, they blow through them, whatever.
And
So-
people get a false sense of security when you
Wow.
have the stop sign up.
See, what they're doing is they're trying to solve a problem by creating another problem. So if the core issue is we want to slow down the traffic in the neighborhood, there's only one tried, true, and proven way of doing that, and that's enforcement. So if you want to do that, then let's get a random enforcement team that goes around. That's all that they do, is we have these problem areas. Okay, various times during the day, every day of the week, there's gonna be a speed trap out there. That will slow down the traffic.
Behavior modification.
That's the only way to do it. I mean, I'm sorry, you can put up traffic lights, you can put up stop signs, yield signs, you can put $11,000 signs that flash saying you're going too fast. That's not gonna slow down the traffic. It's good window dressing, it's good politics because, oh, look what I've done for the people in my area. Still doesn't address the core problem. It's window dressing, it's politics. What you need to do, if you wanna slow down traffic, is put some enforcement out there. So the politicians and the city council should be saying, listen, you, Mr. Chief of Police, come here. We have a problem, and here's where the problem is, and we want you to do something about it. So get some enforcement out there. And we want to report back each month on how that enforcement's going. And then you talk to the residents of those areas, and as a politician, you say, is it working? Are you finding a difference? Then you've created a solution, as opposed to creating more problems that deal with more problems.
No, I mean.
That makes sense?
It makes perfect sense. Like I say, I can see where, yeah, like you say, you spend a lot of time involved in conversations.
Mhm.
And sometimes you're wondering, maybe if you just took the chairs away, that people wouldn't spend as much time talking.
Well, you know, to be perfectly honest with you, I think there needs to be some more control placed on how the meetings are chaired. I mean, I recall back in the day when Tom Davies was chairing regional council meetings, you didn't get the kind of nonsense that we have here now. It wasn't tolerated. So, you know, perhaps some more stringent adherence to decorum would be appropriate to make a change there. But
And those were the days when everybody that was sitting around the table, you knew where their loyalties lay.
oh, absolutely.
And then the two from the valley, you knew they were speaking.
Oh, they're only interested in their belt. That was the regional model.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the whole idea. Okay, listen,
But
you
Tom-
got your turf, you got your, we're all together here together. It's like an association. We have the same thing at the Taxpayers Association. You know, Greater Sudbury Taxpayers Association was formed 3 years ago. In the interim 3 years, there's been a number of other associations. There's North Bay, Sault Ste. Marie, French River, Killarney, Manitoulin East, Espanola, Elliott Lake, Red Rock. And so they all started calling us and saying, hey, listen, you know, we like what you're doing. So we said, it started out as a listen, if we have some research that we've done and you guys need, we'll share it with you. So we started this sharing back and forth, and some of them who wanted to incorporate used our articles to do it for themselves. And then it generally moved into, so we now have a regional association of taxpayers associations. So we met first time here in Sudbury, second time we met in Espanola, third time was in the Sioux. You know, next time we're supposed to be meeting in North Bay, so.
Must make your core members feel pretty good that you were able to make that kind of
Yeah,
difference.
I mean, it's growing and it's moving, and so it's not just Sudbury that's suffering governance issues. It's right across the board. I mean,
And I think, you know what, I think it's in all level, like, I'm a school board trustee.
mhm,
We could spend a whole show on school
Sure.
boards.
I'm sure.
You know,
Mhm.
hospital boards, it seems as if governance is starting to take on, you know, a life of its own here. And the word governance now is almost becoming a philosophy.
Yeah.
And so what is governance? And then you get into all of these, I'm really hoping that people support the initiative that you're putting out. Because like I said, I'm convinced just from listening to this that if I'm an incumbent, I'm not looking at this as being someone who's looking over my shoulder. I would actually be very thrilled knowing that somebody is going to be able to track
Mhm.
where we've come from, because I can see after a couple of years looking back saying, you know what, we dealt with this issue 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And there were a lot of arguments. I'm gonna go back and check some of the arguments because, you know, now that I'm looking at this, and now that I know what I know, I'm not afraid to change my position. And because
If it's the right thing to do, it's the right thing to do.
And new information, so you don't have to hold fast to a particular,
Well, and I think the example that we have of that was Councillor Belly. I mean, you know, he voted along with Berthiaume when he brought the ombudsman, firing the ombudsman motion forward. And then afterwards, when we said, hey, listen, guys, this isn't right, and here's the reasons why it's not right, and we're going to get a petition going, he looked at it and said, you know what, you guys are right, this needs to be reconsidered. So
that's not a sign of weakness.
no, that's not a sign. That's
That's
the
a
sign
sign
of
of
somebody who
leadership.
actually understands how the process is supposed to work.
Yeah.
And, you know, if it wasn't for Councillor Belly, I mean, we wouldn't have got our petition presented, you know? So he took the bull by the horns, because he had voted for it, he could bring it back, he brought it back, he championed it. We got, I think Chimino and Craig and the mayor, along with Councillor Belly, to, it wasn't enough, but at least, you know, there were some people who changed their minds. I mean, the mayor was always on side with simply not firing the ombudsman, you know, so it was nice that, you know, she got some support from Belly and some other councillors when it moved to that extent.
No, I think this is great. Everything's on the website? Is it a
Yeah,
simple-
there's,
simple website?
yeah, it's www.gstaxpayers.ca.
Okay, and if you've been listening to this, you heard that. If you haven't, on thelearningclinic.ca, I am going to upload this video, the
Great.
interview, and I know your group is free to link to it
Yeah,
as
we will.
well.
We will.
And there are a lot of Facebook sites that are, you know, people are, they may not all be commenting on the
Mhm.
post, but you know that they're
Sure.
listening, they're looking at it, and for sure, I can see us, because of what you're doing, I can see us having, the Greater Sudbury Taxpayers Association in here probably on a monthly basis.
Good.
Updating and talking
Good.
and because it's awareness,
Sure,
and
look
that's
forward
what,
to it.
that's what this is all about.
Super.
Dan, thanks for spending some time here. I think this has been great. I'm looking forward to the next several months where we bring in, all of the counselors have been invited to come in. All of the people running for school board are being invited to come in. Even the provincial candidates are being invited to come in. Because
Excellent.
I think getting people interested in governance, getting people interested in the people who are leading them,
Mhm.
I think is important. And I don't know, it just seems as if we've got this attitude we have to overcome, that there's nothing you can do, so what's the point?
Yeah.
And I don't know, a couple of old dogs like us, we're not gonna.
Not gonna
But that-
take that for an answer.
No, that's not an answer.
Thanks for having me.
Okay,
Bob.
thanks a lot,
Appreciate
it's
it.
been great.
Bye-bye.
From the event will be donated to the Sudbury Manitoulin Division of the Canadian Mental Health Association.